Chapter 4 New Kid, Old Comrade. It was lunchtime, and Max Ernest was still preoccupied with his bizarre encounter with Miss Johnson in her Renaissance fair costume. What a powerful magnet that must have been to float like that, he thought. He had to admit Pietro was right. To someone who didn't know about magicism, it would look like magic. Automatically, he headed for his regular lunch spot at the nuts table. Only as he was sitting down at his usual seat did he become aware that he was about to commit a capital schoolyard crime, having lunch alone. He stared at an empty seats around him, cast his direction across the table and Yo-Yoji's to his right. For years he hadn't thought twice about eating by himself. But now that he experienced the pleasure of having friends to eat with, lunch did seem like lunch without them. What to do? He wasn't very hungry, and in any case, he hadn't taken a lunch with him to school that day. In past years, he had always had 2 lunches, one packed by his mother and one by his father. Lately, neither parent seemed to remember he might sometimes need to eat. The only thing he had with him, as far as food goes, was a single chocolate bar that he had to last until he got home. Besides, it had been in his hand's pocket for almost certainly melted. He needed to put it someplace cool and let it harden again. Should I get up? He would look pretty silly considering he just sat down. Besides, he had nowhere to go, at least not until after school. He glanced down at the blue plastic surface of the nut table, as for his instructions might be written on it. And in fact, there were plenty of graffiti etched into the plastic, but nothing helpful or even repeatable. Max Ernest is fair to say was at a loss. I'm lonely, he thought, with a sense of discovery. I feel bad. In an odd way, that felt good. Usually being bad at feelings, Max Ernest didn't feel bad. He felt badly. The same way he threw badly, although Yo-Yoji had helped a little with that. But today, you could say he was feeling bad well. That is not to say he was feeling well, exactly, but rather he was doing a good job at feeling bad. He was so pleased with this formulation that he almost repeated it out loud. But sadly, there was no one to hear it. The 2 other kids at the nut table, Daniel, not Danielle, and Glob, didn't count. For one thing, they were sitting at the far end of the table, and he would have to shout. For another, they hadn't so much as said hello to him. Then again, Max Ernst hadn't said hello either. Hello wasn't really done at the nut table. Danielle, not Danielle, was a soft-spoken, caramel-skinned boy with exceptionally long dreadlocks, and he refused to cut despite the fact that they were always covering his face. Although he would have preferred to call himself by his given name, Danielle, he hadn't corrected the pronunciation so many times that the correction itself became his name. Glob was so primply and so very pale-skinned boy who was even lower on the school pecking order, who enjoyed the intoxication degree of his power to the convenience food industry. His junk food reviewing website, the Glob blog, was read by thousands of fast food fans. His opinions that was said could make or break a product in its first week. Max Ernest knew them as he knew everyone at the nut table, but he didn't know them. That is, he wasn't friends with them. On the other hand, he wasn't enemies with them either. One time he'd spoken to Glob. Max Ernest had mentioned that Glob and blog were anagrams. They have all the same letters, like when you try and find words in Scrabble or Bloggle. Actually, come to think of it, both words are contained in the same name, Bloggle. How about that? He meant the comment was complimentary, but Glob had taken offense. So what? Glob blog is still mine. I came up with it myself. I've never even played that, said Glob, as if Max Ernest had implied that Glob had stolen the name of his blog from the game Bloggle. As an experiment, Max Ernest moved several seats closer to the two boys in question. They didn't welcome him, nor did they protest. He took this as a positive sign. I thought he was an aristocrat, like a lord or a count or something from England. Danielle, not Danielle, was saying in a voice just barely above a whisper. But then I heard he was an ex-convict who just got out of juvenile hall because of DNA evidence. At first, hearing the words Lord and Count, Max Ernest assumed they were talking about everyone at the school was talking about the Renaissance Fair. But as he listened in on Glob and Danielle, not Danielle, he realized the topic was something else altogether. Apparently their school had been graced with the presence of an important new luminary. He's neither. He's a child actor, said Glob, munching on a new experimental variety of lime green, spearmint-flavored breath-freshening popcorn. Food companies were always sending Glob free samples of the latest exploring cherry bomb, bubblegum, and nacho cheese extreme potato chips in the hopes of a favorable mention on his website. He's on hiatus. Danielle, not Danielle, looked distressed. He hates us? But he doesn't even know us. No, idiot. Hiatus. He's on hiatus. It's what they call summer vacation when you're on a TV show. Except when my blog goes on a food channel, we don't really have summer vacations because cable is on a different schedule. He pulled a half-eaten popcorn kernel out of his mouth and inspected it. These things are totally disgusting, but you kind of want to keep eating them. It's weird. Oh, said Danielle, not Danielle. Well, either way, he's definitely a genius. They say he's fluent in 12 languages, like even Belgian. That's impossible, said Max Ernest, cutting in. He was finding himself increasingly resentful of the brilliant new student. Why? Because it's more languages than you speak? Glob asked. His sarcasm was a little less sharp than it might have been, owning to his own mouth being full of green popcorn. No, because there's no such thing as Belgian. It is so. What about Belgian waffles? What about them? Waffles don't speak any language at all. Last time I checked. The point is that Belgians speak French and also Flemish, which is also actually kind of Dutch. How about that? Whatever, said Danielle, not Danielle. So maybe he speaks Flemish. Yeah, and don't diss Belgian waffles, said Glob. Medieval dates Renaissance gave me like $100 worth of coupons to try theirs. Now they're gonna sponsor my blog during the Rens Fair, and this time they're paying cash. Max Ernest turned away. He felt like a jerk. Why was he bothering to talk to them? And why had he gotten so worked up about the aristocrat or actor or whatever he was new kid? He was supposed to be focused on saving Cass and saving Cass alone. Suddenly Max Ernest missed her intensity. If a moment ago he was feeling an ache, this was more like a spearing pain. With Cass, he could argue about Belgian for hours and not feel like a jerk. She might laugh at him for obsessing about a difference between, say, Flemish Dutch and Dutch Dutch. But whatever she's laughing at him, she was always laughing with him at the same time if it made any sense. Wait, that's him, said Glob. He's not coming to the nut table, is he? Now that's impossible, said Danielle Not-Danielle. Glob and Danielle Not-Danielle were openly staring at a boy who was walking, now strutting towards them. Even at a distance, there were no mistaking him for anyone else at school. Instead of jeans and a t-shirt, he wore a striped suit and a bow tie. Instead of a backpack, he carried a briefcase, giving the impression of a dapper businessman rather than a middle school student. Sunlight illuminated his golden curls and created a bright sparkle in the large glass lens that covered his left eye. It's not possible. Anyone can sit here. Max Ernst stunned brilliantly, although he knew what Danielle Not-Danielle meant. Besides, it was always possible he was allergic to nuts, he added. Officially, the nut table was the table for kids with nut allergies. For a long time, Max Ernst had wondered why it wasn't called the no-nut table. Recently, Max Ernst had figured it out. The other kids at school thought that the kids at the nut table were, you guessed it, nuts. What's that over his eye? Is it a magnifying glass or something? Maybe he uses it to light a fire, said Glob excitedly. It's a monocle, said Max Ernst. It's like glasses for one eye. Rich guys used to wear them in the old days, and some magicians, he thought, which is how he knew about monocles. He's totally coming to our table, said Danielle Not-Danielle. Indeed, he was waving in their direction. Hello, Max Ernst, my dear fellow. Danielle Not-Danielle and Glob turned in unison towards Max Ernst. Judging by their expression, the only thing they thought more unlikely than the new boy visiting the nut table was that he should know Max Ernst by name. Emergency drill! Attention, reader! We are sorry to interrupt you in the middle of your chapter, but as you know, emergencies are not always scheduled at convenient times. Indeed, they are scheduled at all. That is why they're emergencies. The author of this book has hired us, the team of emergency agent specialists and emergenters, more popularly known as the anagram T's, to conduct a drill in order to ensure that you are prepared for a genius emergency. Although this is only a drill, your full cooperation and participation are important for your own protection and the protection of others. Also, it is necessary if we are going to be compensated for our work. Pseudonymous Bosch and Cheap refuse to pay us in advance. Your response to the drill will be timed and compared to other readers' responses. This is for the informational purpose only. Humiliation and perceived losers are not our intention, only the perk. Remember the slogan: if at first you don't succeed, you'll never have another chance. Ready? Here's the scenario for the drill, as supplied by us by the author of this book. We take no responsibility for the likelihood or variation of participating. You agree not to hold T's responsible for any injuries occurred when you respond to the following emergency. You are on a school bus. Your best friend is homesick and you have to sit by yourself. You are quietly reading a book, the book in your hand now, although no one on your bus would know it, because you have of course disguised the book, as discussed earlier. If you must read the secret series in public, even someplace safe and familiar seeming like a school bus, it is best to glance upward every 1 or 2 minutes to make sure that you are not being observed by any potential Midnight Sun members. Sadly, you have gotten a little over-involved in the story, shame on you, and you haven't looked up in more than 10 minutes. Now imagine this. Suddenly you realize your error. You lift your head and glance out the window, rubbing your eyes and shielding them from the sun. You don't see anything amiss. Gradually you realize the bus has stopped at a crowded intersection. The power is out and the traffic signals are repeatedly blinking red, and the traffic cop is standing in the middle of the road, directing traffic. Wait a second. Of course she's wearing white gloves. It's part of her uniform. Perfectly natural. No case for alarm. Nonetheless, you can't help expecting a small shiver. Surveying the streetscape further, you are surprised to see a manhole covered and flipped onto the asphalt. A construction worker in a yellow hard hat and an orange jumpsuit climbs out from under the street. He's also wearing white gloves. Probably they were work gloves, you think, but strange that they are white. Not very practical for construction. Well, that's his problem. No reason to panic. At first you think it's a trick of light, but the man sitting at the bus stop on the far side of the street also appears to be wearing white gloves. On second inspection, you confirm that yes, he is in fact wearing white gloves, but why? Given the black suit and the music stand leaning against the bench next to him, maybe he's an orchestra conductor. Conductors wear white gloves. There is no real evidence he is a member of the Midnight Sun, after all. And yet, common sense tells you 2 people wearing white gloves might be a coincidence, but 3 is a cause for concern. Your concern heightens when a marching band suddenly emerges from behind a line of cars and starts crossing the intersection in front of your school bus. There are over 100 band members, trumpet players, tuba players, drummers, and the whole works, in a red uniforms decorated with gold bands. And they're all wearing white gloves. You look at their faces, hoping for a sign that they are a real marching band, maybe a high school marching band, but not an army of evil alchemists. But their eyes are cold and their skin, while youthful, is pale and almost too taut. Your imagination, they transforming into a handsome, healthy marching band to a band of skeletons marching on the Day of the Dead. By now your pulse is racing, your mind is swimming, and fearful thoughts. The bus is stopped and you cannot move without plowing through the band. This is a crucial moment. You have seen them, but they have yet to see you. It's time to act. The drill starts now. Now. Please document all your actions, second by second, on a time card. Video footage for yourself. Drill is welcome. You should not be considered a substitute for your written submission too. Send a tease. Bosch emergency drill. Attention drill sergeant.